Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Doom Productions podcast, a podcast where we share filmmakers' worst nightmares. I'm Ethan.
I'm Jordan.
I'm Zach.
And every week we talk about the production of a film that for one reason or another, ran into big problems. I'm excited for this week. How are you guys doing, though, before we jump into it?
Good.
Doing well.
Nice.
There's been some fun developments on our production side of things.
Yeah.
Well, there's a script that Ethan told us about. Told me about just now, and I'm pumped for it. Zach will fill you in afterwards, but it's looking pretty juicy over here at Doom Productions.
Right.
Yeah, we'll talk at the end of this podcast.
You texted me about it about a week ago or so. I know a little bit.
Yeah. No, at the end of the podcast, after we talk about this movie, we'll share some stuff, and then after this recording, we'll share even more. But
yeah. If you didn't know, to our listeners, we don't just do this podcast, we also make movies. You can check them all out on our channel for free. These are feature-length movies that you can watch, and some shorts, old shorts, but mostly features these days.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're like me, and you're just scrolling through Netflix, you have no idea what to watch because there's too much stuff, and you have all these options of Hulu, HBO, Amazon, like all these different options of streaming services, head on over to YouTube and watch our stuff, because I guarantee you won't see anything like our stuff on any other streaming service.
Yeah, check it out.
Yeah.
But like we said, this is the time where we share about movie productions that had harrowing stories, and some of the movies we share about go on to great success, and others fall into obscurity. So today, the movie I want to talk about is a film called The Man Who Killed Don Quixote.
Okay.
Have either of you guys seen this movie?
I have not seen it.
Or know about it?
I have not seen it. But from my limited knowledge, I'm aware that there have been decades, if not a century, of attempts to try to get a movie made of Don Quixote. Am I right, or in the right area there?
Yeah, you're in the right area. And I'm not going to talk about any attempts to adapt the novel before this movie, but I'm specifically going to be talking about the Terry Gilliam film that came out in 2018. But it's got a long, harrowing process to get this movie made. I've seen it, actually. I own a DVD copy of it that I found at Winco for like $5. And I had heard about it. I knew it was a movie that Adam Driver acted in. So that was why I bought it. I like Adam Driver. I think he's a great actor. And so I was like, oh yeah, that's like from earlier on in his career. So I was pretty interested in picking that up. So so I've seen it, but in this podcast, we don't talk so much about the movie's like reception or like our own views of it. We just share the facts. So just know that going in. But without any more delay, let's just jump on in. So The Man Who Killed Don Quixote, like I said, directed by Terry Gilliam, known for making things like Monty Python. Oh my gosh. Brazil
12 Monkeys.
Yeah, Jordan's got it. Thank you. I just totally blanked on a whole bunch of movies all at once. The writer was Terry Gilliam, and his co-writer was Tony Grisoni. I hope I'm saying that right, but if I'm not, Tony Grisoni is so fun to say that I'm going to go with it anyways.
Is he Italian?
Yeah. And the movie obviously was inspired by and adapted from the novel Don Quixote. So the movie was starring Adam Driver, Rochefort. The names are killing me on this one today. Okay. Jonathan Pryce, Stellan Skarsgård, and Joanna. Oh my gosh, Ribeiro. Gosh, thank you guys for bearing with me on all those names. So, jumping into when this movie first got put together, or the ideas first started churning for it. Terry Gilliam had read the novel back in 1989 and started kind of working on some form of an adaptation of a script from the novel to a screenplay. And he liked this movie partly because he saw a lot of parallels between the novel and his own works. Some of the themes and ideas that he saw in the book he liked, and he felt like were in parallel with the things he was making. So, yes.
Can I have you read the book?
No.
Okay, I haven't read it either, but the way it's been described to me is it's kind of like Kick-Ass, but in the like old time, like 16th century or something like that. Like a guy who wants to be a medieval knight.
Yeah,
He's
it's a guy.
He's crazy, pretty much.
He's a crazy dude who wants to fight giants, but
is that what it is? Having seen the movie Don Quixote.
Yeah, a little. Yes,
Okay.
and no. You'll
Okay.
see how the adaptation kind of shifts in ways like, and how it kind of incorporates that without being such a direct adaptation of the novel.
Okay.
This movie goes through a lot of rewrites. I'll just say that up front. This movie goes through decades of rewrites. So the film that he was writing originally was about a retired, slightly kooky nobleman named Alonzo. Oh gosh, some of the names are really hard. Alonzo, who reads too many romances, like chivalry romances, and taking like leave of all of sanity, he sets off to fix the world, revive chivalry, clad in makeshift armor and accompanied by a donkey-owning farmer named Sancho Panza, who serves as his squire. Similar to the novel, but a little bit different. So that was the first draft they started working on back in 1989. So fast forward 1 year, Terry Gilliam had signed a deal with Phoenix Pictures. Perfect, Jordan, you got the novel.
I haven't read it, but
yeah. So 1 year later, he signs a deal with Phoenix Pictures to make a film titled Don Quixote. And for his first round of casting, Sean Connery was slated to star in the film. But Terry Gilliam wasn't a very big fan of Sean Connery. He just felt like he wasn't right for the role. And some other people that were set to possibly take the role were Nigel Hawthorne as Don Quixote and Danny DeVito as his sidekick, Sancho, which would have been a phenomenal movie. Just when Danny DeVito thrown into anything is great.
Well, just him having that name, Sancho Panza, that's great.
Yeah.
It's Danny DeVito.
But Gilliam decided later on that the budget that was offered by the studio, Phoenix Pictures, was too low to get the movie made. So the project was dropped, and he focused on a different movie of his called Defective Detective, which I believe was going to star Nicolas Cage. But that movie didn't get made. So that project also fell through later on. Phoenix Pictures held on to the script, and they replaced Gilliam, and they were going to make it with a different director, Fred Schapisi, sorry. And John Cleese and Robin Williams were going to play Don Quixote and Sancho Panza, respectively. But that movie also did not get made. It got canceled in 1997 after a couple of rewrites, and they were trying to get the script put together, but just nothing came of it. So that project fell through, and Gilliam started to write a new script with this co-writer, Tony Grassoni, retitling it The Man Who Killed Don Quixote. And this was a new script with a new plot. And the movie was going to kind of center around a modern day marketing executive being sent back in time and meeting Don Quixote. So a bit more sci-fi zany. The project was getting a lot bigger in scale. And at the premiere of Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas in 1998, which Gilliam also directed, he announced that this movie, The Man Who Killed Don Quixote, would be his next film that would come out. Now, because of what went down with Phoenix Pictures, Terry Gilliam didn't feel like he wanted to deal with the Hollywood system. So instead, he wanted to go to Europe to get this movie made. And it was actually said to, at this time, was going to be the biggest European budget film. It was going to be around $32.1 million. And Gilliam later said that this was only half the money that was really going to be needed to make this movie the way he wanted to. but that was the budget they were stating they were going to try and go for. So Jean Rochefort was cast to play Don Quixote, and he spent 7 months learning English for this role.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so he was taking it really seriously. He really wanted the role, and Gilliam really wanted him in the role. And the producer character that was going to be in the movie, his name was going to be Toby, and Toby was going to be played by Johnny Depp. And the female love interest was going to be Vanessa Paradis. So yeah, that was the slated cast.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So just before production was starting in Europe, it was going to start in Spain in September of 2000. They ran into issues of cast scheduling. So a lot of the actors, they found out right before shooting, weren't going to be able to be on set at the same time. And they were starting off filming a lot of scenes where everyone was supposed to be on set together. So they were really quickly trying to scramble and trying to figure out how they were going to make this work. They weren't really sure how they were going to film it. And they were also set as their first location to be filming next to a NATO military base. And the problem with that was they were also having F-16 fighter jets flying over set constantly. Ooh. And all the audio that they were getting was unusable. So they had to tack on like extra scheduled days for just ADR re-recording because there was no way they could use anything that they had gotten on set. That was day one. And on this, you know, it's going to be great when you just described day one. But day two of filming, there was a flash flood in Spain, destroying a large portion of equipment and also their sets. And it changed the landscape so much, both in like, particularly in its color. So all the footage they had shot was unusable due to continuity errors because it like totally changed everything. And the crew spent the next several days trying to recover equipment, get new supplies. And it turned out the insurance that the film had didn't cover the damage caused because of a flood. Like that wasn't included in their coverage. And several of the actors also just straight up didn't show up to set like beforehand. So they were already kind of like doing this with both legs tied, both arms tied. Like it was just not going well. They're having a really hard time getting this made. So by the 5th day of filming, their lead actor, Jean, was doing scenes where he had to ride a horse and act. And he knew how to ride a horse, but the crew was noticing that he was like wincing in pain a lot while he was riding. And when they had to like get him off the horse, he needed assistance. And also he needed like he was having a hard time walking afterwards. So ultimately he was rushed to his doctor in Paris. And they found out that not only did he have like prostate issues that he was suffering from, but he had a double herniated disc in his back.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So he's trying to do all these scenes. And like, also all that footage was unusable because you could just like tell he was in pain the whole time and was just not able to do it. So that automatically made it uncertain of when and if he could return to set. And this was a lot for Gilliam. He wasn't really sure where this put him in terms of production. And he was trying to make this perfect cast and he felt like he had everything he wanted. But ultimately by November of 2000, they canceled production. So it was done.
Can I say what's funny about this story, this production story so far, is in all the movies we've talked about, if this production had been done by the other people we've talked about on this podcast so far, they would have just kept going.
Oh, 100%.
Terry Gilliam is smart. Well, not that the others are dumb, but like, he's wise enough to have that insight of like, I think the movie's just done. Or whoever made that decision, good call.
It seemed like Gilliam was the one to make this decision. And it totally was like not coming together. I think he knew that like there was too much necessary and too much at stake to make it work on this round. So after this production was canceled, an insurance claim was filed on behalf of the investors. $15 million were reportedly paid from the insurance. And the rights of the screenplay passed on to the insurance companies.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like there was just a lot of legal stuff going on with this, but they lost the rights to that screenplay. So fast forwarding to 2005, Gilliam tried to recast the lead role and tried to also gain new funding for this project. But the film had already gotten such a bad reputation that he couldn't get traction of investors or actors for the movie. So it just kind of was sitting in like production hell. And so he was like, all right, this isn't coming together. And he focused on other projects that he wanted to get made that, but a lot of those also didn't get made, unfortunately. So these include, again, I mentioned earlier, Defective Detective, which was going to star Nicolas Cage. He wanted to do an adaptation of Good Omens, the Neil Gaiman novel, but because of 9/11, actually, the studios were like, "Ooh, this is too dark. We don't want to deal with this right now." So they ultimately said no to that project. He made a Brothers Grimm. I think it was a series, actually, not a movie.
That's a movie.
Wrong. Is it a movie? Yep. Okay, I wasn't sure. I couldn't remember if it was a series or a movie.
I think it's got like Heath Ledger in it or something.
Yeah. And then bring up Heath Ledger, there was the Imaginarium of Dr. Uranus, which Heath Ledger died mid-production of.
And then Johnny Depp replaced him, and like a couple other actors too, I think.
Yeah. And Johnny Depp and Gilliam, they have a long working relationship together, because after 2006, Gilliam was ready to give Don Quixote another shot. And Johnny Depp was again tied to the project as the lead character, Tony. So they were going to continue to work together. And Tony, the writer, Tony Grisoni, was working on another script. So they were continuing kind of the same rough plot, but they were they were redoing it again. And over time, other actors got recast and added to the project. Like Robert Duvall was going to play Don Quixote. And Ewan McGregor was also added to the cast at some point. And come around to 2010, production finally was like kind of finally setting into place, even though like Johnny Depp in interviews up to this time was talking about how he was like, I love Terry Gilliam, but I'm not sure when or how this is going to happen and if I'm even going to be tied to it. But he was like, kind of like, it's just up in the air too much. I'm not going to say one way or another if this movie's going to happen. So resources were starting to get gathered, but funding collapsed in July of 2010 again. So it fell through. And so delays of shooting kept happening. And by 2012, production still hadn't started. So Ewan McGregor dropped from the film, but Duvall was still trying to stick around. Fast forward to November of 2013, Gilliam, in an interview, this is just a quote, said, I'm going to try and do it again. We'll see if it happens. I just want to make it and get rid of it and get it out of my life. So he was like dead set on making the movie, but was like definitely like over it.
Yeah.
So
and that's before cameras start rolling too.
Yeah, cameras haven't started rolling since what year again? 2000. And now we're in 2013.
Oh,
and now we're going to flash forward to September of 2014.
Okay.
There's just these year-long gaps where, okay, finally on September 29th, 2014, Terry Gilliam said that production was going to start up again in the Canary Islands. And he revealed that he had received funding, but the plot of the film had changed. And this is what the plot was going to be. Our main character was actually making a Don Quixote movie, or had made a Don Quixote movie earlier in their life. And the effect of the film had an effect on many people that wasn't very good. Some people got mad, some turned to drink, some become whores. So it's like this, and then it's like the effects of this character running into these same people years later. So John Hurt was confirmed to be coming on as Don Quixote, replacing Robert Duvall, and Jack O'Connell was cast as the lead role of Toby. But then by 2015, in June, Terry Gilliam had also gotten a deal with Amazon Studios to release the film theatrically for like a month, and then it was going to go to streaming for like a debut. But in September of 2015, John Hurt was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer right before they were going to start filming, so he had to drop from the project. And then he later passed away in 2017. But he never came back to the project. So this is where things kind of feel like they're uncertain. But there's this guy who like steps into the picture, this producer. His name is Paulo Branco.
Paulo Branco.
Paulo Branco. He's the producer that steps into this project. And he's like the knight in shining armor that this thing needed. He's going to get this thing made for Terry Gilliam. So in 2016, he promised Gilliam that he could get him the minimum amount of about 16 million euros that this movie's budget reportedly needed to get made. So Gilliam was like, at the very least, I need 16 million euros. And Paulo Branco was like, dude, I got you. So
we all need a homie like that in our life.
Yeah, I know. Paulo Branco is just the man. So the cast had yet again or had shuffled around a lot. Like there were a lot of new characters. Adam Driver was now on to play Toby, the main character. Michael Palin, was going to play Don Quixote. And Adam Driver is going to be paid 610,000 euros, and Michael is going to be paid about 285,000 to play Don Quixote. And again, the plot of this movie had kind of shifted around. This new one would be set entirely in like modern day. Toby was going to be directing a commercial and coming across a copy of his old student film retelling the famous Don Quixote story, which leads him back to the town in like Spain that he shot this short film of his when he was in film school. And then there's just a bunch of adventures that he gets caught up in throughout the story. So, and he like runs into an old actor of his who still believes that he's Don Quixote all these years later. So it's kind of
that's little messed up.
yeah, it's kind of funky. So Paulo is like, all right, let's get this thing started. But Paulo also was starting to fighting for creative control over the movie. Like he was like, this is going to be my movie if this thing is getting made. And other people had started to tell Terry Gilliam that this Paulo Branco guy isn't a very good dude, but Terry Gilliam kept him attached to the project because he thought that the movie was just never going to get made if he didn't have someone driving this hard for it. But because of Paulo Branco and his reputation, Amazon pulled out of the project because they didn't want him attached to it. Like they didn't trust him.
What has he done before?
I hold on. I need to.
I'm going on do a quick Wikipedia search.
Yeah. So he's a Portuguese film producer.
Holy crap. He's produced over 300 movies.
Yeah. He's done a ton of work.
Wow.
And he's still working. Yeah. So you can see he's got like a long, very extensive producer list. I mean,
doesn't say what he's done. I want to know.
Well, we've got The Domain, Mysteries of Lisbon. These are just like a couple.
But I mean, in terms of why he was disliked.
I think he was just very cutthroat, and you'll kind of get a sense of why in a second.
Okay, got you. So okay. Just his personality, it seemed like.
His personality is his main thing. Like he's done a lot, like he's seasoned, but it's how he goes about things. And you'll get a sense of this pretty quick here.
Okay.
Okay, let me see where my notes are. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, so Amazon pulled out of the project because of Paulo Branco being attached to it. But Gilliam was like doubling down, stating publicly about it, that the movie is on its way to completion. We're going to do it anyways. And they were going to start shooting in October of 2016. And he was like, this is how it's going to be. But things got more tense later on when Branco tried to reduce the budget needed from 16 million euros. Like he wanted to bring it down as much as possible. So he was going to cut the pay of Michael, the guy playing Don Quixote, from 285,000 down to 100,000. And The actor was obviously not happy about it, and neither was Gilliam. Gilliam wrote to Blanco stating that the pay cut was totally unacceptable and unprofessional, but Blanco replied that the film needed a true producer, referring to himself as the captain of the project. And so he wouldn't back down either.
Oh my gosh.
Fast forward to April of 2016, Gilliam signed a deal where in exchange for producing the film, Bronco would earn, in addition to his own salary, a salary of 750,000 euros that Gilliam would have been paid for writing and directing the film. So, like, he's taking full, like, all the money and taking full control over the project.
Wow. Okay. Cool.
And also Bronco tried to reduce the salaries of the crew, including like the hairstylist, the assistant directors, and the unit production manager, who was Amy Gilliam, Terry's daughter. So he's trying to cut everyone's salaries as much as possible to not have to pay as much. And he also was trying to push for Michael Palin, like, to get recast because he was too old for the role. And to cut costs, he also wanted the film to be shot digitally instead of on film. They were going to shoot on 35 millimeter. And Bronco,
so
again,
he's cheap. He's cheap. He's super cheap.
He's hella cheap. And there's an exchange that's quoted that Bronco was saying to Gilliam, either you make the film my way or you irredeemably compromise the feasibility of the project and your film is condemned. It will never see the light of day. That's quoted as something he said to Terry Gilliam. So he's like holding this film hostage.
Wow.
And it's like, it's me or nothing.
Well, especially after going through all that.
Past,
and almost 20, like 30, 40 years.
Do you think Gilliam is, by this point, do you think he cares, or is he just like totally like he's seen it all by this point and he's like, dude, you don't scare me?
It kind of goes back and forth because he doesn't he keeps him around for now. But he, like, this Paulo Bronco definitely has a way of like getting what he wants, because he fights really hard with Gilliam to get these things, and he's mostly successful. But the real terrible thing, so we're in April still. We're in April, so we're past when shooting was supposed to start. So it was start in October the previous year.
Wow.
Let me make sure that number is correct, because they were going to start.
Dude,
we're still good, because it was supposed to start in October 2016. We're in April of 2016.
Okay.
But by this point, so cameras weren't supposed to start rolling, but Bronco still hadn't gotten the money that he was supposed to have gotten. The 16 million, the budget for the movie, he still hasn't gotten it. And on April 6th, Bronco sent an email to Terry Gilliam urging him to accept conditions that pretty much he, like, all this stuff, like that he was going to, all the money, all the control, he was still like pushing Terry Gilliam to like hand all of that over. And was threatening to cancel the project altogether and fire the crew and cast if that didn't happen. And again, Terry answered these demands were unacceptable and incompatible with the contract that he'd previously signed. He was like, this is like way too much. And Bronco then suspended production on October 2nd.
Oh, wow.
So this big power struggle ended with that. But then Gilliam kept trying to work on with new producers.
So he's trying to find new homies to roll with.
Yeah.
I guess we don't need a homie like Paul Bronco.
I set you guys up a little bit.
Oh,
man.
Okay.
So he finds new producers. He starts production over entirely again. Driver is still attached as Toby, and his female lead is also still attached. And Jonathan Pryce is cast as Don Quixote. Gilliam felt like over the years, these were all the perfect people that he wanted. He felt really happy with this cast that he's landed on now. He felt like it's like all been worth it, the waiting and everything. So with his new producers, they secure 17 million euros, which is $1 million more than the budget needed for like the minimum. And Gilliam announces that filming is going to start in March of 2017. The crew, but to do this, to make this movie work, the crew agreed to work for lower rate wages than they would normally be paid. And just to get the movie made. And on the 4th of June 2017, Gilliam announced that filming was finally completed. So it took 17 years to get the movie like made.
Was that the same crew? Like when Paul Bronco was a part of this, was the crew at that time carried over from Gilliam?
Largely, yes.
Okay, yeah. So I can see how they would be like, yes, we like see your passion. We want to. Okay, cool.
Yeah. And then in December of 2017, Terry announced that the movie was pretty much finished. And it had a runtime of 132 minutes. So
nice.
And then come May of 2018, Amazon Studios dropped from the projects again. Like they were kind of always in and out a little bit. Like he kind of had buddies at Amazon Studios, but they were in for a while and then they dropped back out. Yeah. And then there was also an error, like a report that Gilliam suffered a stroke right after that happened, but that was not the case. But that was what was reported at the time. It was just a minor medical thing. So in my notes, I just have a thing titled Bronco is back.
Bronco's back.
Bronco's back, baby. You remember our buddy Bronco?
What did he do?
He does a lot. So going back to 2017 in June, Bronco claimed that he owned the rights to the movie that Gilliam was making due to the agreements that he made and signed back in 2016. So he said that he owned the salary of Gilliam. He said that but Gilliam said that since Bronco didn't get the funds for the movie, that he didn't have to uphold his end of the deal. However, Bronco claimed that he still owned the rights and was still owed by Gilliam his salary, despite not providing the financial backing for the film that was planned. And according to the producers that Gilliam had, he asked to be paid a total of 3.5 million euros. So Bronco was asking for that much money.
That's like
2 million before the release and 1.5 million after release of the movie.
That's at least like a fifth or a fourth or like a fourth of the budget for the movie for doing nothing.
Yeah. So Gilliam tried 2 times to legally have the contract nullified in court. He did it once in Paris and once in London, but both courts ruled in Bronco's favor. So they were like, yeah, no, you owe him the money. And then he retried again in 2017, but it also was unsuccessful. They did not nullify the agreement. So by April of 2018, Gilliam and his producers had not paid Bronco, stating that his claims were totally unfounded. They still didn't agree with the rulings of the court and they refused to pay. But Bronco still also.
That's like me with my taxes. I will not pay 1 cent.
The IRS is about to come after this podcast so quick. But Bronco was also doubling down, saying that like he had the rights to the film and that the film could not be released without his permission, which led to another court battle and the film not being stated to play at the 2018 Cannes Film Festival.
Oh, damn.
Because they were like, can't play it. And Bronco said Bronco was intentionally trying to prevent the film from premiering at the film festival and with the hearing timing, he wanted the hearing to be on May 7th to decide whether or not to authorize at the festival, because that was really close to the play date. But on May 9th, it was announced that the film would be allowed to premiere. So for a while they blocked it, but then they opened it back up to play. And the reason was the festival organizers said that the Cannes Film Festival's mission is to choose work purely on artistic grounds, and selections must, above all, be with the agreement of the film's director. This is the case here. Past experience has made us aware of possible legal action and the risks we are running, But as it happens, when we took our decision, there was no opposition to the screening of the film at the festival. So the film festival backed Gilliam on this one.
So Caleb
Nice.
Robinson could make a bootleg Paul Blart 3
And
submit it to
they'll screen
Cannes,
it.
and according to that merit, if they found it had artistic value, they would back it.
Yeah.
Even if it wasn't legal. That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So that's where they decided to land on for the ruling. So, and then in June, the Paris Court of Appeal ruled again in favor of Bronco owning the rights to the film. And he also said that he wanted to seek damages from Gilliam, who had to pay $11,600 to Bronco's production company. So he's going for more.
Wow.
But from anyone who was involved, anyone who's involved. Sorry, I was rereading my notes. Okay, so he had to pay $11,600 to Bronco's film company, but from anyone who was involved in making of the film. And Bronco said that any exploitation of the film up until now has been completely illegal without authorization of his film company, and will be seeking damages with the interests of the people involved in this illegal production. And above all those who are complicit in this illegal exploitation. We're holding everyone responsible, the film's producers, all of the others who supported the film, including those who distributed the film in France at the film festival, everyone. So he's like going after every single person involved with this production and wants to get like money back.
He's out for blood.
Yeah. This guy's merciless. And then, so later that month, it was reported that although the court ruled in favor of Bronco, one of the producers claimed that Gilliam, in fact, still retained the rights to the film, and saying that Bronco overstretched his victory in the ruling, and Gilliam overstretched his victory in the ruling. Gilliam never shot a frame of film under the deal with Bronco, and as such, the former producer does not own any rights. However, since Gilliam did a poor job of terminating the contract with Bronco, there was still a financial settlement that would need to happen between the two parties and the ex-producer. So there was kind of like this simmering down of the film, finally, of all this legal trouble. On the 17th of December, Screen Media Films acquired the North American rights to the film and set a March 2019 release date. But the film was released in the US and Canada on April 10th of 2019, and had a one-night screening in theaters through like Fathom events. So it was very limited release. And then you can find it at Winco on DVD sometimes if you're looking hard enough, like I did.
Yeah.
In terms of reception, it received fairly mixed reviews overall. I'm talking about like on things like Metacritic or Rotten Tomatoes. So take those reviews as you will. But Rotten Tomatoes gave it a 65% review based on the 126 like reviews. And Metacritic gave it a score of 58, and IMDb gave it a 6.3 out of 10 rating. And most of this is pretty, like, all the reviews are kind of the same, more or less. The movie is endearing and charming, but kind of a mess and far from perfect, because it's just very, I don't know. I feel like the movie kind of, people are saying it's kind of just all over the place and kind of loses focus on its plot sometimes, and kind of just does a lot of things without kind of feeling like you're going in any direction. So yeah.
Lucky for them, I don't believe in plot.
It has a plot, but sometimes I think people felt like it forgot the plot. So that's that, and that's the reviewers. So that's kind of how it all kind of summed up for them.
My grandparents saw the movie when it came out on VOD, and they were like, we saw this really weird movie when we were on our trip. It's probably something you'd like. That's what they told me. They were like, we bet Jordan would really like this movie, because I don't think they liked it very much, but they thought it was really weird and strange.
as someone who's seen it, I will say it's kind of weird and strange, but it's
Yeah.
enjoyable. I think for the right person, it's a really fun movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
That's
for the
cool.
wrong person, I don't think they'll like it. But, ain't that movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the story of the man who killed Don Quixote.
I didn't know. I mean, I knew it was a troubled production, but I didn't know the extent of all that trouble and everything. That was really
It
interesting.
was years, just 17 years to get it shot. But then there's even more before. So it's more like 30 years if you're going all the way back to 1989.
Yeah.
I might be misremembering this, and I'm going to do a quick search as I'm saying this, but I think I've heard that like Orson Welles tried to do Don Quixote way back in the day, like when he signed on to do Citizen Kane, like he signed a 2-picture deal. I heard that might have been one of the movies he tried to do, or maybe I'm probably totally misremembering it.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't research any other productions.
I do not see. Okay, I'm probably totally wrong then. Orson Welles has not tried to do it. As far as this, my search really quick, but there's been a lot of adaptations or attempted adaptations, it looks like. But
yeah.
Anyways, it's it's pretty wild, and yeah, I'm impressed that he was able to keep going for so long.
Well, just at the movie, I didn't know any of this watching the film. So now knowing all of this, going back and watching it, that's kind of incredible that the movie even got made. So I'm happy I own a copy of it, just for that, because it's just like, it is a weird movie, but it's like, man, he did that. Don't let your memes be dreams.
There's a documentary about the 2000 attempt with Johnny Depp and people. I know that they're like, or I was aware that there was like, he tried to do a version a long time ago and it didn't happen, and they made a documentary about it. So I know, I'm curious to see what's in that footage and in that documentary.
Yeah, I didn't get around to watching it, so I don't know, but
yeah. What's the lesson here?
Dude, don't work with Paulo Bronco.
Don't avoid Paulo Blanco. Yep. Bronco.
Read the fine print in your contracts you sign when you decide to make a movie.
Fine print.
Be persistent. Sometimes the timing's not right, and that's okay.
But no one to give up too, because he gave up a couple of times. It seems like he walked away from the project.
Yeah. But it's
I'm curious what his original script, like way back in the 80s, would have been like, in 89, like as a straight adaptation. I'm curious what that would have been like.
Yeah, I don't know.
And I wonder I wonder if rights reasons, like he wasn't allowed to do a traditional version. Like if I don't know.
Yeah. But it's worth watching. I'd say give it a watch if anyone listening is curious. Like if you can hunt down a way to watch it. I don't know if it's streaming anywhere, if you just have to pay a bunch of money to watch it on whichever platform. But it's kind of interesting to see, like, I don't know, as a creative watching that movie, you're kind of it feels like you're watching someone's imagination put on a screen. Like, I know that that's what all movies is, but it's more tangible in that movie. I feel like, just hit my mic, more tangible in that movie. So I don't know.
Cool.
It's got a lot of charm.
If you want to watch it and you can't find a physical copy, it is streaming on Apple TV for $7 in the US.
Boom. If you got a VPN, you can do that. If you got 123movies.com, that's illegal.
But
we're not above it. Don't do it. No.
It's not illegal if you get it for free.
Okay, real quick. Well, no, I'm not going to tell the story because it would be me admitting to something illegal, but it has to do with me forgetting to use a VPN and me being scared. But then nothing happened, so it's all good.
This leaves so many open possibilities of what could have happened, and it's better that way.
It had to do with the topic of this current conversation. All right, okay.
You wouldn't download Paulo Blanco, would you? Or Bronco? Would you?
The strange Italian man disintegrates like an onion. He's like, ah! Or I don't know if he's French or whatever. I don't know. He's European, right? Spanish, maybe.
Let's see.
What nationality is
Paulo Bronco? What are you? Now that you're in my search history, I can search him so quick.
I'm gonna guess Italian or Spanish, just based on that last name, Bronco.
Zach, do you have a guess?
I'm gonna stick with Italian. I'm gonna go Italian.
I'm gonna go French Irish.
On tonight's episode of Who's That Bronco? The winner is neither of you, I guess, because he's from Portugal.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you said that. You said that earlier. Dang.
Yeah.
I wasn't paying attention. That's right. You said he was.
I couldn't remember it either. He's from Portugal.
Okay.
He's 72, so he might be getting out of the business soon, anyways.
Portuguese. That's a real quick side story. Amanda, Raquel, and I, we went to the Carver Cafe this weekend, which is where they shot a scene in the Twilight movies, and it's kind of like a stop for Twilight fans. When we were there was this group of Portuguese girls there, and they were telling Twilight quotes to each other, and they were so they would be like Portuguese, Bella, where you been, loca? Portuguese. You know what I mean? So it was kind of funny.
So funny. She might need her toes one day.
I know. So, but Portuguese is a confusing language if you know Spanish and or French and or Italian, because you think it's Spanish, but then it's totally not, and it's strange, but it's cool. I'm not. That sounds kind of racist or something. I'm not I think it's cool.
Strange language from a strange land.
All of those languages
be regular Spanish,
because you think you hear Spanish, but it's not, or you think it's Italian, but it's not. It's this weird
in between.
Yeah,
people who speak multiple languages know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, we don't like the Portuguese language, is what we're hearing.
Let's move on.
Don't take that quote out of context. Dang it.
Let's move on to our next segment. Unless you have any closing thoughts, Ethan.
I was going to say, now people are going to think now people are going to say I think Coolsville sucks, is what that made me think of from Scooby-Doo 2.
Scooby-Doo 2.
This is going to be a Thomas S meme on Discord in no time.
Oh yeah.
The first experience of media manipulation. Yes, was Scooby-Doo 2, Monsters Unleashed.
Let's move on.
All right.
In addition to talking about a trebled production every single week, we also have a little bit of a doomed movie club here, where one of us picks a movie and we watch it over the week at some point, and then we come together and we talk about it. So it's kind of like our book club, movie club. This week it was Zach's turn to pick the movie for us. Zach, what did you pick?
I picked the 2022 film Babylon.
Yeah.
What movie did we make you pick?
What?
Well, here's the story behind it. I didn't have one in mind last week.
Right.
And so Jordan texts us saying he watched Babylon during the week. Sometime early in the week, like probably Monday or Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, wow, that was crazy. And I was like, you know what? I'll just do that one for this week, because I'd been meaning to watch it at some point anyways.
Mm-hmm.
And Jordan had watched it and Ethan had been meaning to watch it. So it's like, all right, let's do it. So
yeah, I stole my mom's Paramount Plus login to watch this movie. So
yeah,
I just finished it like an hour ago.
Yeah, just before filming
midnight last night.
Yeah.
So fresh off your mind, Zach.
Yeah.
Or how do we want to go about this? But what are your impressions?
What stands out? Yeah.
What's the movie about?
Okay, so yes, we'll give a brief premise, non-spoiler premise. So basically, it takes place in Hollywood in the 20s and 30s, and follows a series of different characters that either are or enter into the film industry, and kind of follows their experiences and how they're kind of intertwined. Very much feels a lot like a Tarantino ensemble film almost in some ways due to that format.
Yeah.
It made me think of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and that might have just
Yeah.
because of Brad Pitt and Margot Robbie and the subject matter, but
I told Sarah that it's like, because she was like in and out kind of watching and doing stuff, and she comes in and she's like, what's this movie like, or like, what's it about? And I'm like, this is Once Upon a Time on Hollywood on cocaine.
I'm trying to think of which one
for a lot of reasons.
Which one was more wild, do you think? Because the end of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood goes so balls to the wall crazy, but this whole movie is like a cocaine trip or something.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, just the very opening of the movie sets you up. And I don't mean the 30-minute long extensive party / orgy scene. I mean the elephant scene precedes it.
That's right. So okay, since we're I feel like we're all going to be scatterbrained, I'm just going to speak what comes to my mind. Was anyone else thinking of like hell during this movie? Like the opening party sequence, their costumes and the architecture and the colors.
The color grading
made me think of if they were going to make a movie about like Paradise Lost or like Dante's Inferno, like way back in the 20s. This is what hell would look like in the 20s. And so when I was watching the movie, I was totally thinking like they're like in the rings of hell and they're going like and like the basement scene at the end, to the depths. And, like, again, I haven't read Paradise Lost or the Divine Comedy, or is Paradise Lost the same thing or a different thing?
Paradise Lost is its own thing.
Okay,
I can tell you by my 2 copies on my desk right now. I'm ready to go.
I'm thinking of the Divine Comedy. Sorry, I haven't read the Divine Comedy, but like the opening party, just like Jean Smart's like headdress made me think, oh, she's like she looks like the devil or something. Like it made me think of like this movie's about like the rings of hell and like the horrible like nature of Hollywood and all that, but. I don't know.
The name Babylon felt very fitting. Like, I mean, just if you know anything about like, I mean, the Bible, history. Like its comparison using Babylon as this like analogy for a city of sin and just immorality and corruption. You definitely get a sense of that. Like that the title is very fitting.
Right.
Well, and simultaneously, Babylon was also the center of power in the Western world for a very long time. And you kind of get to see that in a parallel rather in like the addition of sound to movies and stuff like this, and kind of like the progression of technology in this movie in comparison to like the progression of technology in society in ancient times and stuff like that. So I think that was another parallel that was very interesting.
The sound scene where they're trying to get that take of Margot Robbie and the sound is introduced, like it was so funny because you hear stories about that in film school, but you don't think of it in like real, like what it actually would have been like the implications. Like that was great.
It was so good. Again, like the movie, every scene, like I know people talk about the movies too long or this or that about the movie.
I disagree.
Every scene, even if you feel it, I think every scene is so well crafted and so well put together and everything feeds in so well. I'm so entertained by each one that I don't care. Even though it did feel like a long movie. Like, there's some long movies that feel an hour shorter and there's movies that are short that feel 2 hours longer. This one felt its length to me. Like I felt like this was a 3-hour movie. Part of that might have been because I really wanted to go to bed, and it was like a Sunday night, and I had to get up early in the morning. I wasn't finishing until like midnight. But this movie felt its length, not in a bad way. Like I was thoroughly entertained by it. Though I was scared my roommates were going to walk in the room many times because I'm watching the downstairs.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of scenes that I'm like, just don't catch me right now watching this.
Yeah.
Please don't.
I think it's a strength to the editing because the editing just like on an individual moment to moment, scene to scene, frame to frame basis is so strong and well crafted, and you can see his musical influence because he went to school to be a musician. I think the director, like he was I think Whiplash was based on his experiences, and so like every kind of, it felt like very structured. Like there's a lot of, he's keeping the rhythm of the movie in mind. Like there's a scene where the dude's the main character Manny, he's rushing to the camera store to get a film thing, and it's cross-cutting between all these different moments, and it's so paced so well where it's like a series of rapid punches and then it's just stillness. And series of rapid punches and then stillness. Like that's what it felt like the whole movie. And something like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, this isn't a knock on that movie because that movie was what it needed to be, but that is a much more slower, more methodical, meditative movie. Meditative is a weird word to use for that movie because it is kind of, it's a very much a Tarantino movie, but compared to Babylon, which is very much like, it feels like you're listening to music or like a score. Like it's paced very specifically, and the editing is so strong that I agree, Ethan, I don't notice the length at all. And not saying I do in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood either, but if
that movie goes fast.
That movie goes fast, but if you're going to compare the two, the editing in Babylon feels a lot more snappy, a lot more like it's giving you highs and lows, ups and downs. Like it's moving you emotionally, I think. And then
it plugs you, it feels like it plugs you into the mindset of all the characters. Like you feel like you're a part of that world in this Hollywood culture right away. Like once by the time the title card hits, very far into the movie,
like 30 minutes. It was like
crazy,
30
literally
minutes
30 minutes.
But by the time that happens, you are like saturated in what this movie is. And I felt like it's such a weird thing. I don't know if I can say many movies have done this, but the mindset of the characters and the way they're feeling inside and like this go, how like the pressures of the system that they're in are like pulling them and driving them to do more. That mindset felt contagious in a weird way, and those emotions felt really contagious in this movie in a way that I don't feel like I've felt in a long time. In like a movie just like giving me the feelings that these characters are feeling. It felt very visceral.
It's like La La Land was a celebration of the arts in the movies, and this is like the antithesis. This is like Hollywood is broken and is filled with degenerates and weird and like, and it's filled with like crazy amount of crime, and like it's the opposite. It's like there's a bunch of toxic people in the system, and we know it's true, like with all the stuff that's come out in recent years, but like imagine back then with not what was going on then. But then also it's near at the end of the movie there's this kind of scene that signify or that like hints at like, but maybe it's worth it, you know what I mean? Like despite all the garbage and the nonsense and toxicity and just horrible things that are going on, it still makes movies that manage to move us and like touch us deeply. And it's like this question mark at the end, that end scene with Manny. Shouldn't light spoilers. End scene with Manny to me is like a question mark of like Hollywood is filled with it's toxic. Question mark. That's like what that is to me.
I mean,
it definitely felt like. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Zach.
Okay. Yeah, it definitely felt like it was portraying like this like fall from grace and this like broken beauty of like this like what once was great has slowly descended and become corrupted by these various different facets, by its very much by itself, and kind of getting to see the circumstances of the ending and how things come back around is very interesting.
Yeah.
And I think you put it very well of like, is it worth it? It might have been type of thing, which was really cool. So yeah.
Which again, was going back to the La La Land thing, like the end of that movie is also much like more spoilers for La La Land, but that movie's really old. The end of it, they both get the careers that they wanted, but there's a question mark of, was that result worth it to sacrifice our personal lives? And this whole first one is like, we're sacrificing our bodies, our sweat and tears, our like morality,
our souls,
and but like, is that worth, like, but we get what, like, this beautiful thing that'll live on forever. Is that worth, like, it's really interesting. I think that would make a really weird double bill, La La Land and Babylon.
It would be.
Yeah. There was that one scene between the gossip writer and Brad Pitt's character, Gene Smart, yes, that like really hit me, where I was like, wow, so this is what the movie is saying. And it's like I could kind of put it together that way, but then just how well written it was. I think it's like probably about 2/3 of the way through the movie, maybe a little bit more.
It's like a minute long scene. It's like 2 minutes long. It's really short.
Yeah. But it's like you're feeling the scene from the perspective of Brad Pitt's character and like where he is. And then you're listening to this person explaining the situation. And it's like, wow, she's right. Is what she is saying what we want to be hearing right now as the audience in the shoes of this character type of a thing. And it's like both beautiful and tragic at the same time of like, man, what? Yeah.
It's so good.
It's a great, I mean, I know we've said before on this thing, we are not reviewers. All of this is our opinions, and we don't even like talking reviews, but our impressions of it, like I think it's fair to say we all really enjoyed the film. We had a good time with it.
2 weeks of very intense films between Babylon and Blonde.
I know. Both back 3 hours long too.
Yeah,
both about Hollywood.
About Hollywood. Oh my gosh, there's that's a kind of interesting thing there too. Anyways, I get to pick next, so I'm curious. I don't know what I'm going to pick yet, but maybe something lighter.
Maybe something shorter. Go for like a 90-minute.
Yeah. Are there any other thoughts on Babylon?
I don't know.
Okay. Well, I guess let's just move on to our final segment of the show, which is what are you working on? As we've said before, we make feature films here on YouTube at our channel, Doom Productions. You can check them out for free online on our channel. And this is where we like to just let the folks know what we got going on here. Who wants to go first?
Zach.
Sure. All right.
I'm voting you in.
I've currently been continuing to write and work on my feature film. For those of you who do not know, from what little we have told you, each of us are adapting a book in the public domain and creating a feature film out of them. And so I've been working on mine. It's been going well. The last couple of days I've been out of the country, so I haven't been doing much on that. But that's the update on that particular feature film. I started editing and playing around with footage that I got back in December in Hawaii for a short that I'm making. So that's been interesting and kind of fun to play around with, like how I want that specific stuff to fit into the overall thing, because that's only one part of the overall short that I'm creating. So that's been kind of fun as like a side thing to be like, well, I'm not writing right now, maybe I can do some editing. So yeah,
you've beat us for most exotic location.
Hawaii.
Yes.
Yeah,
twice.
I know.
You've done it twice. Between Wild Boys and this.
Yeah.
It's been, some point we will shoot in Hawaii for Wild Boys. I don't know when, but at some point. Well, I mean, aside from your thing at the end of Wild Boys 2, but
yeah.
If there are any producers that listen to this podcast who are open to very nefarious contract deals, who may or may not be named Paulo, and can get us like a couple $1 million
or euros, we'll take either one.
Or euros. Yeah. We only need 14 million.
Yeah. Cool. I'll go because it's not like nothing huge and major, but like I've been wrapping up La Danza of sorts. There's going to be some big news coming out. I don't know when. I got to get all my ducks in a row, so to speak, before we start announcing stuff. But working on that, working on a script, two scripts. One for our book adaptations. The other one is another film that we're going to shoot in Yakima this year. And yeah, that's pretty much all I got for me.
Yeah. So I'm supposed to be working on my adaptation for, our triple feature thing. And while I was working on editing or writing the notes for this podcast episode, it inspired me. It tapped into something, an idea I've had for a film. And so I wrote an outline for another feature film that may or may not be shot, more likely next year than this year. But and I'll just say it for to keep things interesting, since we're usually so secretive. This would be a feature film derived from our short film trilogy, the Mustache trilogy, specifically the last installment called Righteous Hombres. So if you want an idea of what this feature could be like, go watch Righteous Hombres. So that's all.
You'll have to scroll down a ways, but you'll
have to find it. But it's worth watching. It's an oldie but a goodie from the far off year of 2015, a time before The Man Who Killed Don Quixote was finished.
That was 8 years ago.
Wow, it was a long time. Yeah.
8 years, yeah.
We've been doing this. This is our 10th year of this YouTube channel.
It has been 10 years. Oh my goodness.
On May something. I have to go back and look at the dates.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure this is our 10th year.
Yeah. Wow. I just realized that.
Yeah, we've been doing this a long time.
Do a 10-year thing in May. Just an idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What could we do? If anyone has any ideas of what we could do, please send them to us.
Comments.
Yeah, leave them in the comments, because I mean, yeah, oh gosh, I'm having an existential crisis over here.
I know we've been doing this a long time.
Yeah,
but wait, hold on. I'm trying to pull up our channel so I can get an exact date now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah. The first thing we made, I'll say, it was Rendezvous Midnight. That was the first short we ever made.
Yeah.
Zach was just a fetus at that time, so he wasn't around.
The channel actually exists.
No, I'm joking. How old were you in 2013, Zach?
2013, I was 12.
Okay, and I would have been 18. Yeah, right?
Yeah,
because I'm 95.
Or Jordan's
95.
I'm 96. Zach, you're 99?
I'm 2001.
That is so weird.
Oh,
you're
a Gen Zer. I'm jealous.
I forget that you're that young.
It's crazy, I know.
Oh my gosh. Who let you in? Just kidding.
You.
I know that might have been us. Shoot. But yeah.
Anyways,
August like 11th actually, or 1st or whatever, was actually the day the channel was created.
But we made the
We didn't make anything until later. I don't know
really?
What took us so long. I don't know what took us so long.
So we made something. So
2013 is when Rendezvous Midnight came out.
So the channel was 2012.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But
so it would have come out. It would have been happening around the time of Wild Boys. Maybe a little later than Wild Boys. The first Wild Boys.
Different Wild Boys.
Different Wild Boys. OG Wild Boys. That maybe someday on like Patreon they can watch it.
Yeah, that'd be a trip.
It would be.
Yeah.
The Wild Boys enter an alternate universe.
Oh wait, I got something else I can share.
That's an idea, actually.
I got something else. I just remembered. Hold on. Let's see if I can reach this from over here. I'll be a little cryptic with this, but I'll share that
this is why I said what I was making. I was because we hold out so much. I feel bad.
I've been working on an animated project, and I've been storyboarding that. And let me see. I'm gonna find a page of the storyboards that I can share that's not gonna be too spoilery.
There's a still for 0.1 seconds that you guys can see. If you're listening on if you're listening on Spotify, this is why sometimes it's nice to listen on YouTube, because you can see it.
Yeah, I'll wait. No, that frame gives a little too much away. Let's see.
I don't even know it. We haven't seen any of this yet. I don't think. This is a first for everyone.
Okay. Oh, I gotta turn the brightness down. Hold on.
I'm like, blinding lights.
Let's see if we can we see that?
Hold on.
Where are we?
I see it. I know what this is.
I can kind of make it out.
Yeah.
I think I know what this is.
So we got, there's going to be an animated project. It's going to be done when it's done, but I would like to have it done this year. But I'm taking my time with it. So yeah, working on an animated thing. I totally forgot about that. Well, at least sharing it. I didn't forget about it, but
that's exciting.
Yeah.
It's probably a good place to wrap up there.
Yeah. Is that, or who wants to take us out?
Well, thank you all for watching. We really appreciate it. If you are on Spotify, check us out on YouTube. We would really appreciate it. And check out our movies, regardless of where you are listening. We appreciate it if you give us a like and a subscribe. I know that can be annoying when people ask that, but we still appreciate it. Also, give us money on Patreon. We appreciate it, and we do monthly live streams.
Oh, yes, we have a monthly live stream coming up.
Oh, yeah, right. It's on March 16th.
March 16th. I think it's going to be, 5 p.m. PST?
Yeah, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard. So if you're not following us on Patreon and you want to be a part of that, last one was fun.
It was fun. It was great. We only had one person in there, but it was a lot of fun.
We answered their questions. They let us know what they wanted to know, and we answered it as best we could. I hope that was satisfying for them. It was fun for us.
It was like a mini film school lecture, like Q&A kind of thing. So if you want to know a little bit behind the curtains, I think we'll be a little more like, not that we're going to reveal all the secrets, but I think we will be a little bit more, loose-lipped with the some of our projects. We can share a little bit more details on those kind of things.
Look, if you ask, we're not going to say no. Yeah, might just give you a little more. I don't know.
Yeah. But March 16th. March 16th, 5 p.m. PST, Pacific Standard Time.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can find the links for all this stuff down below. That's the place to look. But thank you all so much for listening to this episode of the Doom Productions podcast. We look forward to seeing you all on the next one.